So in this video, I'm going to go through how we can actually determine the number of each subatomic particle for an atom or an ion. Okay, so just a quick couple of explanations. The number up top, when I show you that symbol, that is going to be your mass number. Okay, and the number on bottom is going to be your atomic number. Now, just as a quick review, your atomic number is the same thing as your number of protons, while your mass number is your number of protons plus your number of neutrons. Okay, so let's look at this. My atomic number here is 6, which means my protons is 6. My mass number is 12. Okay, so therefore, since protons plus neutrons is my mass number, well, I've got 6 protons. I don't know how many neutrons, and my mass number here is 12. So that means I have 6 neutrons for carbon-12. Okay? Number of electrons. Remember, the number of electrons is dictated by the charge or lack of charge of your atom or your ion. So here, notice carbon has no charge. Well, if it has no charge, that means it has the same number of protons and electrons. So since it has 6 protons, that means it must have 6 electrons. And if you look, it has a mass number of 80. Okay? Now I need to look at my periodic table and see what has an atomic number of 35. Well, bromine, Br, has an atomic number of 35. Okay? So let's fill in the rest of this. I have 35 protons because the atomic number is 35. Remember, to determine neutrons, you need to take protons plus neutrons to get your mass number. Well, my mass number is 80. Okay, my protons for bromine is 35. So when I calculate that, my number of neutrons is going to be 45. Okay. Last thing, electrons. It tells me I have 36 electrons, but 35 protons. So what that tells me is I have 1 extra electron. So if I have 1 extra electron, because electrons have a negative charge, that means bromine is going to have a negative charge. Let's go to the next problem. Beryllium. Beryllium has an atomic number of 4, because that's the number on bottom, which means it has 4 protons. Okay. Since its mass number is 9, remember, mass number is protons, so 4 plus the number of neutrons. Since the mass number is 9, I'll write that in there, that means the number of neutrons is going to be 5, because 9 minus 4 is 5. Okay. Notice it has a 2 plus charge, so if it has 4 protons, that means it has 2 extra protons when compared to electrons. So it has 2 more protons than electrons. So if it has 4 protons, it must have only 2 electrons. Okay, let's look at the next problem. I have an atomic number of 74. Okay. I want to determine my mass number. Well, I have 74 protons, because that's my atomic number. 74 plus 110, because protons plus neutrons is your mass number. That'll give it a mass number of 184. So that'll be my mass number that goes up top. Okay. Now I need to look on my periodic table. What has an atomic number of 74? Tungsten, just W. Okay. And the last thing I need to look at is the charge. Well, I have 74 protons and 72 electrons, which means I have 2 more protons than electrons. So since I have 2 more protons than electrons, that means that my charge is going to be 2 plus. Okay? Next one, iodide. Okay, my atomic number is 53. I've got 53 protons. Okay? My mass number is 127. So to determine your number of neutrons, remember it's going to be 53 plus your number of neutrons equals my mass number, which is 127. Which means I'm going to have 74 neutrons. Okay, and finally, number of electrons. Notice Iodide has a -1 charge, which means I have one more electron than protons. Well, since I have 53 protons, if I have one more electron, that means I have 54 electrons. Let's look at the next problem. My number of protons is 47, so that is my atomic number, so that goes on bottom. Okay. My mass number is 108, so that goes on top. Okay. Let's look at the periodic table. What has an atomic number of 47? That's silver, Ag. Okay. Remember, protons plus neutrons gives you your mass number. So I have 47 protons. I don't know how many neutrons I have. That gives me 108. So what that tells me is I have 61 neutrons. And the last thing I need to look at is my number of electrons. Well, here I have 47 protons, but 46 electrons, which means I have one more proton than electron. So my charge is going to be 1 plus, or just a plus. Okay. The last one, atomic number is 12, which means my protons is 12. Remember, my mass number is 24, so that's the number on top. So 12 plus my number of neutrons equals 24. So that tells me I have 12 neutrons. And then finally, notice there is no charge for magnesium here. It is an atom, it's not an ion. So since it has no charge, I have the same number of protons and electrons, so I'm going to have 12 electrons.